So, earlier on, the Sonic trailer dropped, and guess what? I'm hyped. Yep, I'm hyped. I think I am notorious at this point for being the only Sonic fan on the planet who likes all the things every other Sonic fan hates. But you know, I'm just optimistic like that. So, why do I like this trailer? Well, I think the dialogue was really good. I think the interactions between the characters seemed natural. They didn't seem forced or cringy in any way. I liked it. I think the writing seems good so far. The interaction between that General and Jim Carrey's Dr. Robotnik was brilliant. It was spot on. It reminds me a lot of Jim Carrey's roles in films like The Cable Guy or Dumb and Dumber, The Mask. You know, those kind of films where he was really wacky. He's definitely come back into that style for this movie. I also like the interactions between Sonic and the cop, which is, again, people are just crapping all over this movie for those two, but I like them. I like how Sonic's portrayed. Even though his design is not what fans wanted, I think his character is okay. He's not dislikable. He isn't changed too much from the original Sonic, and actually he's quite cute looking. Like, look at this little guy, he's adorable. So, if you haven't seen the trailer yet, go watch it and come back. I can't show it in this video, I can only show like snippets or whatever. You should really go watch it, but no doubt you already have if you're here, so hello. I'm a bit annoyed at how many dislikes the trailer got. Like, the whole video was just mostly dislikes, which is a shame. Like, it wasn't all dislikes, which was a good thing, but it was mostly dislikes. And I know for a fact that all of those dislikes are just from annoyed Sonic fans. Little Sonic fanboys who just are upset that Sonic does not look like Sonic. And you know what? Sonic's always been changing. If you think back to the original Sonic from the original game, he had a different colour scheme. He was a light blue, he was shorter spined. He didn't look like the same Sonic from today, and he was also really chubby. So he was a little chubby hedgehog, and then he got changed to a darker shade of blue. His design actually changed in Japan and the West. The West made him look more edgy like the one in the cartoons, while Japan had this more cute cartoon look for him, and then Japan sort of liked the West's interpretation more. There was stuff like that going on. And then obviously the cartoons had a different design anyway. And if you look at all of Sonic's designs, they're all so different. In Sonic Adventure, he obviously had a huge redesign to fit in with modern gaming. And then in Sonic Boom, he had an unnecessary redesign, but again, I found it alright. Again, people just complained about that because Sonic had blue arms. Big deal. People complaining about blue arms, I don't give a damn. Like, most people think he's got blue arms anyway. Who's gonna miss his peach arms in this movie? Nobody, not me. So, to me, this just seems like another one of Sonic's various designs. And of course, we all understand that the reason for his redesign of this movie is to fit him into a more realistic world. Now, there will be people arguing,
Danny, you do realise that Detective Pikachu came out, and that's not got by designs. They look like Pokemons.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. They do look like Pokemons in that movie. They look exactly like Pokemons. But I feel like in that movie, things, I guess in a way they fit in more with the realistic world. And not only that, but I think they went for a more different director's approach. It was a different director's approach. So these are obviously the Fast and Furious directors. They wanted a more realistic world, and they tried as hard as they could to achieve that by obviously making Eggman not a cartoon character but a real actor, and then trying to make Sonic as realistic as possible. Which, you know, we've been memeing about that for some time. But here it is, we finally got it. That's what Sonic looks like in this movie. And guess what? Big deal. Who cares? This isn't how he looks in the games, okay? He does not look like this in the video games. Just be happy that this is not the design we're gonna get in games. Because even Sega aren't really pleased with how his eyes look. His eyes have obviously had to be changed because one huge eyeball just looks weird in a realistic scenario. So this is a one-off design. This is how Sonic looks in one movie. Just get over it. Grow up and, you know, go and do something better with your life if you're honestly gonna complain that in a movie that has amazing visual effects, good voice acting, good dialogue. If you're gonna complain about Sonic does not look like Sonic, that's... what priorities do you have in your life? Now, one thing I want you all to understand about how directors work and how making movies works is when you make a movie, even if it's based on something that has a particular fandom, you want to try and make it available for everybody to watch. So they couldn't make a movie for the fans. It had to get as much people watching as possible, and people who have actually seen this trailer, who aren't really into Sonic, who don't know much about it, they say it looks fine. They don't mind it. but people who are familiar with Sonic don't like it. Now, in reality, there are probably more people who are willing to watch this movie who are not in the fandom compared to people who are. Now, what I mean by that is, even if the movie was exactly how fans wanted it to look, overall, the people going to see it would probably be the people who are in the fandom, and that's a smaller number of people, because the fandom is obviously smaller than the rest of the world. So what I'm trying to say is they wanted to get more people in. Let's take a movie like Avengers and the other Marvel movies. If you compare all the Marvel movies to the original 60s cartoons or the original comics, they are quite different. Yes, they still include things like stories and lore, which this movie also includes, by the way. It has lots of references to things like Sonic X and the rest of the lore. But when you look at the Avengers, so many people from outside the comic book fandom go and see them. I don't actually read the comic books that much, well, at all actually. I was into the Avengers when I was a kid, obviously like the cartoons and stuff, but overall I've grown up with the movies, and the movies are brilliant. Why? Well, because they're visually stunning, they've got a good score, they've got good dialogue, things this movie probably could have. And when I went to go see Avengers Endgame, no spoilers allowed, by the way, I would delete spoilers because that's rude. When I went to go see Endgame, the cinema was full. Every cinema was full. They were booked out across my area. And that's not normal. And that's not because it's the finale to something these fans have wanted for a long time. That's because the movie appealed to people outside of the fandom. There are people who aren't really interested in the Avengers who went to see it with their friends anyway because it looked like a good movie. And I think this movie tried to do that. I think the director of the Sonic movie really wanted to achieve the same feel as a film like The Avengers, where it appeals to people outside the fandom. Because overall, a fandom is much smaller than the rest of the planet, if you know what I'm saying. Yes, the Sonic fandom is big, but let's face it, I don't think the Sonic fans not turning up to the movies will affect the movie overall, but the issue is that kids probably won't want to see it if they are familiar with Sonic, and obviously kids will be the biggest market for this movie. But again, let me talk about a film like Transformers, which overall has gone down in history as something horrendous and terrible as a franchise in movies, and we all have Michael Bay to thank for that. But when I went to go see that as a kid, I was dragged with my mum because she was like, hey look, a new movie, let's go see it. I was a little 6-year-old kid, and did I hate it? No, I really like Transformers. And if you go, oh my god Danny, you like everything that people hate. I was 6. I couldn't exactly have an opinion. Yeah, I couldn't have a really detailed opinion like, I don't quite like this movie because Optimus Prime does not look like Optimus Prime and Bumblebee does not sound like I couldn't analyse it like that. I was a little 6-year-old. I was just bothered about eating popcorn and drinking Coca-Cola. And anyway, there was loads of explosions and big noises, so it must have been a good movie. But yeah, I liked it. And in fact, that movie made me get into the Transformers franchise, and now I'm stuck. Help me, I am just all over Transformers now. That's an example. If a parent decides, hey, I want to go take my kid to see this movie, it's a kid's movie, then they will. Obviously, because it looks like a relatively entertaining movie for adults and children. Now, again, people also talk about, hey, why don't they just make a Sonic movie with the effects of Sonic 06? Well, there have been animated game movies in the past, and guess what? They failed. And why have they failed? Not because they are terrible, but because they are targeted specifically at fandoms. So one movie I went to see a few years ago was the Ratchet and Clank movie. I went in the cinema, no one was there. Except me and my brother and my mum. That was it. I think there might have been like 1 or 2 other people in there on their own, but that was it. And that was on the release weekend, I think. It had literally just come out. And I went to go see the Ratchet and Clank movie, based on the video games, animated completely. I think it even had the voice actors from the video games and everything, based on the... It was a reboot of the first game, but no one went to see it. And people will now say, oh, because it was not like the original. Well, that just proves how hard fandoms are to please anyway. So what's the point in making an animated film for a fan base over a majority if the fan base is going to nitpick it and then not see it even if it was animated? I think they made a better decision to make a movie that could appeal to people outside the fandom. And if you say, but Sonic looks ugly, why would they want to see this? Well, because they're not familiar with the design you love. And you know what? I'm fine with it. I'm gonna go see this movie, so when people talk about it being a bomb, box office bomb and all that stuff, well, at least I gave them some of my money, because I'm not ashamed to do that. It looks alright. It looks entertaining, and Jim Carrey looks brilliant. So before you go crapping all over that movie, just because of Sonic's design, really ask yourself, what else makes that movie bad? What else makes it terrible? What else makes it so unbearable that you can't see it? Is it just Sonic's design? Because if it is, then you should really go and have a go at watching it, because that is just a really poor way to judge a film. Otherwise, people would not want to go see the Avengers, because hey, Iron Man does not look like Iron Man from the comics, dislike, whatever. Just saying. Anyway, I'm Lord Danny, signing out.